Everyone, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to another one of our live panels from the JeopardyFan.com. My name is Andy Saunders, and once again, for the 11th time, I will be moderating. We have quite a large panel this evening, including 5 contestants from last week's episodes. First up, I'd like to welcome back my co-blogger, Jeannie Kenkel. Wow, your hair looks excellent tonight. Thank you for joining us once again. Also, from the last week's worth of shows, we have Ryan Alley, Michael Willie, Matthew LaMagna, Jenica Jessen, and Allison Solomon. And finally, rounding out our panel from the 2008 Fall Teen Tournament, Brandon Saunders. As you can see, no relation to me. So just to get started, had some exciting shows last week. A couple of ties, actually. I think I'm glad neither Ben nor Keith are here at this point. They could have joined us, but they were unable to at this point. So I think I'm glad I have neither one of those people on the panel tonight. But the first one, it was a more conventional tie between Bill and Jenica. The second, between Ryan and Allison, looked. I saw a couple people say it looked arbitrary. Ryan and Allison, what were your thought processes going on with that? With what happened Thursday, like going into final?
I can start, I guess, because I think it was interesting for me because since I went last for my reveal, I already knew we had tied when it got to me. So for my wager, which the internet has called it rather unconventional, and it was, I was actually preparing to not get the question right, which I know is not always the smartest strategy on Jeopardy, but that is a really weak category for me. It's one that I had studied a lot and just wasn't super confident in, and my retort to anybody is that $7,600 is still a lot of money, so I thought I made a pretty decent wager. And then when I saw that Ryan had also bet big, like I said, for a split second, I wasn't sure what the numbers were, but I remembered the math, and I was like, oh my God, we tied. And I didn't care. I was just so happy to win.
And Ryan?
Yeah, I understand that this may be one of the, if not the last tie games on Jeopardy possible due to rules changing. So it was exciting to be a part of it. My thoughts on it were English monarchs. I thought that's the wheelhouse of any Jeopardy contestant. Everyone will go big, probably irrationally so. And as it just happened, I had some sort of psychic connection with Allison that we were like the same number, and it worked out. And I would also mention Eileen, the middle gal, had mentioned at several times during taping that she was writing a book on the Vienna Congress, and she was an expert on European monarchy. So I was fairly confident that she was going to go all in.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, we were trying to cover. I was trying to cover Eileen and Ryan, so it was like I just want to stick around.
Now, Ryan, you mentioned something about rules changing. I haven't heard anything about that. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah.
It is my strong belief that after the Tournament of Champions, there will be a rules change preventing ties.
Very interesting. To be honest, I think I'm looking forward to seeing what that change is. That being said, that feels like a fundamental change, almost a fundamental change to the game, almost as much as only the winner keeps the money. But we shall see what happens. That looks like we've had a bit of a bombshell dropped on our live broadcast this evening. I don't think anyone expected to hear that news.
No.
But thank you very much for sharing that with us. I'm sure there are going to be some people who are going to be quite happy, especially after what I've seen on JBoard about some of the discussions regarding all of the ties we've had this season. I guess moving on. Speaking of surprises, yes, Bill seemed surprised that his response of "Goodbye Ruby Tuesday" on Monday was, on Monday was accepted with his final. How you guys in the audience, were you guys surprised his response was accepted? And
Well,
crickets.
being up there, I was. I mean, I hadn't followed along on all of the threads with the rules. Like, had it come in, I just remember standing there. It was like, well, maybe the title was called "Goodbye Ruby Tuesday" and not the restaurant. And then I looked back it up, and it was like, oh, they took both of them. But it was a lock. It was a runaway for him. He played really well. So at that point, I was just like, oh, okay, here, why not throw him some more money? That sort of thing.
Now, just in terms of people who might be tuning in who might not be quite familiar with the rules, I know that in the past, the show has accepted, with regards to song titles, that if you include a correct lyric which includes the title, you get credit for the response. And also the example I always like to give is the Beatles song they accepted once, "Baby You Can Drive My Car" for "Drive My Car." Again, "Goodbye Ruby Tuesday" for Ruby Tuesday.
Right. They gave me "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" for "Over the Rainbow" during Oscar songs and other words in my category, which I was pretty happy about.
Okay.
As a bit of an additional story on that, Bill the next day sat down and talked to my boyfriend at the hotel and told him that he was surprised that it was accepted, and he also said that he was not intentionally betting for the tie, that he just did the math wrong. So
yeah, he told me that too, and I thanked him because that got me an extra $1,000.
When we were talking on stage while they filmed the credit bits, I asked him, why did you bet to tie? He mentioned that he wasn't feeling confident enough to bet that extra $1. I have to admit, I was pretty pleased that he didn't.
interesting.
That does seem interesting, and as Jeannie's mentioned, we tried to get Bill this evening, but we were unable to get him. He was unavailable tonight. I believe he had a book club.
Yeah,
but we're glad that you guys have spoken to him. And
yeah, he's going to come to a future hangout. He wants to, so he just couldn't make it to this.
Cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of future hangouts, I think at this point I do want to mention a couple of things we have in the pipeline at this point. Our next week. Our hangout next week will actually be, I believe, on Monday at about 6 o'clock Eastern, and it will be the Tournament of Champions preview. Followed up with, at the end of November, we will be having a J-Archive at 10 retrospective. The jarchive.com website turns 10 years old on November 30th, and we'll be having a retrospective on that, on how much that has changed the game. I was going to announce a possible Keith versus Ben debate on betting to tie, but again, looks like Ryan's news has managed to
Ryan's rumor.
Ryan's rumor. Okay, fine. Ryan's rumor has probably rendered that discussion moot. So I'm sure we'll have that will be very interesting. Let's see. I presume you guys all remember Friday's Final Jeopardy?
Oh yes.
Ryan.
Yeah.
That I don't know if you guys have looked in terms of the vote. Every week they vote on JBoard as to who got such and such a final correct. I don't know if you guys have noticed this.
Nobody got it, right?
Nobody on JBoard
Yeah.
got Friday's final.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, what was the final again?
Okay, yeah, I'm actually loading up the archive right now so I can get the exact wording of it. But
Okay.
basically, the category was inventions, and the clue was this machine was invented in 1929. The government began buying them to help prevent any more Army Air Corps fatalities. Oh my god, yeah, it's
I
like
have nothing.
So hard.
Because you start at things like parachute and ejector seat, but then you think that's not much. They would have used the word device, and so it's tough the phrasing of that question. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody got it. Period.
Yeah.
I'm almost wondering if the writers may have had a bet on whether anyone would actually get the question right at all on the show. They'd like any of the contestants would get it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
almost
think they just wanted to ruin the reputation of the patent attorney on the show.
you almost have to rely on knowing exactly what year these flight safety devices were invented. Because if you don't, then there wasn't a whole lot of other information in the clue. So, who knew that the flight simulator was invented in 1929? I didn't.
I don't think anyone did, to be honest with you. And at this point, I'd like to welcome another panelist, Tyler Johnson. Hello, Tyler. Good to see you finally made it in. I know you had some issues connecting, but thank you for being able to join us.
All right, I had issues with the flight simulator clue too. I heard.
I think everyone did.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. But, you know, that was a tough one. Oh,
and I think Tyler is having now some audio issues there. Oh well, let's see what we can do about that. Let's knock it. Okay. It's apologies for the technical difficulties. Remember, we are live, and so that does make things a little bit fun sometimes. And Tyler, can we hear you?
Oh,
Okay.
we can type what he wants to say, maybe, and we can just say it.
Okay, we can look at that. So, yeah, it looks like we've had a bit of a reunion of sorts as well tonight. Now, there are 6 of us in here who were on the show last week, and so have you guys actually kept in touch since taping, or is this kind of the first time everyone's kind of spoken much since the, I know I heard in the pre-show that there was there were a couple viewing parties that a few of you joined in on. Can we care to elaborate, or?
Yeah, so out here in D.C., Ryan, Allison, and I each had a watch party Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday last week, and we each went to the other's watch party and took a photo at each of them.
Very nice.
I got like nothing done last week.
Which explains why you're trying to get work done tonight. I am glad you're still able to join us. And Allison, any thoughts on the triple watch parties from yourself?
Oh, it was a very full, party calendar, and I had my favorite thing. I think is that a lot of people are like, I've never had so many drinks and watched Jeopardy at the same time, or taken shots while answering questions. So I thought that was really a good atmosphere for bringing more people into the Jeopardy fandom.
I think we need to introduce you to what one of our other absent panelists does, or what I think he does when he's watching. But we'll be. I'm sure we'll talk to Ben next time he's in about that one.
Unfortunately, there weren't any other contestants out in Utah in this neck of the woods, so I've kept in touch through Facebook though. I've been on with Bill, which was pretty fun. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Bill's the man.
So, I guess for all 6 of you, if you can, what were your favorite kind of, the favorite things that you used as kind of your favorite gets, or your favorite questions that you got right over the week, or over your shows, I should say.
Yeah, mine would definitely have to be getting who was Walter White on the Vince Gilligan category. I was pretty proud of that one.
My favorite would probably be who is Eero Saarinen.
Okay.
Because I only knew Saarinen because I'd studied him in the weeks leading up to the show, and so when he came up, there was just that sense of, oh my gosh, all that time was worth it.
Wow. That's cool.
I'm glad that worked out for you. I know we've had some people here who've said that nothing that they've studied has come up. So I get it. I'm glad in your case that
It
your
worked out.
studying worked out for you. I think there's still a few people I haven't heard from. Matthew, what about you?
Before the Friday game, so that was 10:24. I had just come back and I led off with running the category on college team names. And that was just a lot of fun because I knew that would be, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, I can do something with this, and then it kept on building, which was nice. Just a way to get started.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's I mean, there's so much to be said about momentum in Jeopardy, and getting off to a good start is always helpful for that. And now I think Ryan and Allison and Tyler. I don't know if your audio is working yet again, Tyler, but if you
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know as far as favorite. I didn't really remember any of the ones that I got right until I watched the show. I remembered all of the ones that I got wrong.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. I got a lot of them wrong, so it wasn't hard.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I got a question about Liam Neeson right that I had no memory of at all.
I got one about the show Workaholics. It was based off of the theme song, and I actually watched that show with my dad, and I don't know if anybody, hopefully some of you on the panel have seen it. It's a great show, but it's basically made, I think, for about 16 or 17-year-old boys, and I loved the show. So it was, I think Adam Devine gave me a shout out on Twitter for getting that one right, and it only furthered the fact that I think they called me, Tyler, and Ryan like the hipster trio during our show. So that answer only further intensified that speculation.
The hipster trio. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, I felt lucky that I had a law school category come up in 2 of my games actually, or at least law related. But I think the one clue that really stands out for me is my $2,000 Bible clue, which was "Many, many tekel you farson." It had been a phrase that my great uncle had taught to me as like a very young child in the Bible, and when that came up that they were asking that, I was like, did they like get in a time machine and like track my past and are asking this exactly to line up with my knowledge? But it was cool to be able to give that answer.
I was shocked that you knew that one, and I was really frustrated that you rang in first because I saw it. I'm like, oh, it's a farson, and I thought I'm gonna be the only one that knows it, but good for you because you got it.
Extreme luck.
Yep. The buzzer's hard.
Oh,
that's
yes,
that's a very common thing said about people from the panelists. The buzzer is very fickle, and I guess my next question: you guys have any regrets? Anything you wish you'd studied beforehand? One thing though. You're not allowed to say that you wish you'd studied the history of the flight simulator.
The one that made me most upset was the daily double I got on island ports. Because as soon as that one popped up on the screen, I remembered studying about 2 weeks before the show, and I'd stumbled across the name, and I'd searched it on the J archives, where it had only ever shown up in 6 questions ever. So I'm like, oh, I don't need to know that. And then I needed to know that. And I could remember it was Turks and something, and I guessed wrong. It was Caicos, not Turks and Carcinos.
So close, yeah.
That made me so mad.
I wish I had that double Jeopardy. I had the one on Louis XVI balloon chairs.
That was so hard.
We should all burn our chairs in protest. Like, everyone stand up.
Exactly. But the other one I wish I had gotten was I had studied every single world capital, and I had put them in 2 categories, capitals I know and capitals I don't know. And I had left the West Indies kind of off to the capitals I don't know, and Barbados, that $2,000 clue. Right after the show, went back to the hotel and went to my pile. Barbados was in the capitals I don't know pile.
It's frustrating.
Kicking myself on that one. Every single African capital, not West Indies.
I wish I hadn't studied at all, because, obviously didn't bring off that one. It was fun. I mean, I found out in July and went in August, so really, like, every day after work for, like, an entire month, you know.
Yep.
General, like, geography was kind of a weak area for me. Not a single geography question.
Right.
There's a lot of luck involved, too. I mean, I was lucky that some of what I had studied came up, but it sounds like you weren't.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the risk that you run. If you're trying to cram, like, all of the world's knowledge into, like, a few weeks. Like,
you need to know everything.
Right.
Everything.
99% of what you study isn't going to come up, but if you get lucky with one thing that you studied coming up in your game, then, you know, it's worth it.
Yeah, and I've caught some flack for the Final Jeopardy having 12 years of Catholic schooling and missing a Bible question. I goofed on that one.
Yeah, that happens. You know, again, that happens sometimes. Again, Bill McDonald, asked him about his Tournament of Champions final, and I'm sure you'll probably get some curse words followed by the story.
All right.
But, Brandon, this is the first time I think you've been on one of our taped ones. I know you joined us during some of our tests.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, glad to have you. You've been I mean, what game shows haven't you been on? I mean, you did really well on Million Second Quiz since Jeopardy, and
yeah, and the year before that, I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and then just now I was on Let's Ask America, which doesn't even air in the city I live in, so it's just whatever. just whenever I can get a mental workout, you know.
So, yeah, I was about to say, can you, for those of us who might not have seen Let's Ask America either, can you explain maybe how that game works a little bit?
Let's Ask America, yeah.
Yes.
Basically, it's kind of like, I'd say, a Cousin of Family Feud. It's here's an example of a question. They'd say, we asked, according to we asked a bunch of teenage girls, and they said which one would they be least able to live without for a week, and it would be like, you know, their phone, or their makeup, or their mirror, and you would have to pick which one. And basically, it's like that, and you earn points for getting the question right, and then at the end of the round, the person with the lowest score is eliminated, and it keeps going until it starts with 4 people, keeps going until there's 1 person left, and then however much money that person earned, it's kind of like a daily double situation, or it's more like a Final Jeopardy situation, where they have one final question with 4 choices, because the first round is 2 choices, then 3 choices, then 4 choices, and the last question is 4 choices, and you can risk any or all of your money. And they add it if you get it right, take it away if you get it wrong. But if you risk all your money, and get it right, instead of doubling your money, you quintuple it. So it was pretty interesting. I actually had never heard of it. I was browsing Reddit in August, and one of the casting people from Let's Ask America posted there, and I was like, okay, fine. It's actually over Skype, which is good because I wouldn't have had time to do anything this fall. So
Well, that's cool.
Well, that's interesting.
So is this now? Do you know who usually airs it? I mean, obviously, it doesn't air where you are, but
it's strange because I mean, it's in syndication, but how it worked is there are different areas have it on different channels, and it's not even just regional. Like places on the West Coast air, places on the East Coast air. I live in New York City, and it doesn't. So I don't know, but yeah, it was just a chance to win some money, just not chisel some more into that massive NYU tuition, you know. That's basically what every game show is until I graduate.
Fair enough. That's so. I mean, that works. And for those of you, Jeannie just posted a link to us, but I'll read it out loud. It's Let's Ask America.tv, and I believe there would be a link from there as to when it would be on.
Yeah, there's only a handful of cities. I'm amazed because it's just like
exactly.
Detroit, Baltimore, Kansas City, those kinds of places.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I had never heard of it in my life, you know, and I kind of study this, so this is kind of so I stick mostly with the Jeopardies and the Who Wants to Be Millionaires and things like that.
Any thoughts about doing Wheel of Fortune and trying for that trifecta?
You know, actually, after I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, usually that's the next logical step. But then what happened was, I don't know if you guys saw in the Jeopardy eligibility, Wheel of Fortune has the same eligibility where you can't have been on one game show in the past year, and you can't have been on 3 game shows in the past 10 years. And the years where I've been on a TV show are 2008, and then 2012, 2013, and 2014. So at the earliest, it would be 8 years. So
okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be a while before you get the opportunity to complete try for Wheel of Fortune.
So I'm trying for some other stuff. I'm gonna exit out and come right back because I have to refresh my internet. It's kind of slowing down on my end.
Okay.
All right, I'll be back.
So yes, our panelists slowly. I think Tyler appeared to have some connection issues as well. That's it's live broadcasts are a double-edged sword sometimes. I guess we can talk about the Tournament of Champions a little bit if you guys would like. Because it's all former people who were on last week. But before you I should say before you got the call, how much did you guys all watch the show?
A lot.
A lot.
Fair amount.
I've been watching that show since I was 6 years old, because I used to live overseas and it was the only English language channel on TV. So we'd watch Jeopardy every night instead of PBS Kids. So I've been watching the show a long time.
Okay. So I guess did you have any kind of favorite contestants then, or anyone you really felt wanted to cheer for?
I was a big fan of Arthur Chu earlier this season because he made everybody so mad on the internet, and I loved how people couldn't follow the game because he kept switching from category to category. Just watch the show. It's not that difficult.
I think in the same vein, I'm a Roger Craig fan, and I think he does the same technique, but he's just such a nice guy.
Talking about Roger Craig?
Yeah, talking about Roger Craig. But he's just so much nicer, like just seeming, So I think he didn't get the same flack. Plus, and I've made this comment too, it would have been cool to be on Jeopardy, back more in the 90s or later, before all the internet can really critique every single thing that you do on the show. And so maybe people would have been more pissed off at Roger, back when he was on.
Definitely.
I feel
I think the explosion of Twitter has done a lot for the discussion of Jeopardy, especially at least the real-time discussion of Jeopardy, and how people have reacted to certain contestants. Would you guys? Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Brian. It's funny because I was taking the train back home, and I ran into Roger Craig, who was coming out of the subway. We ended up getting in a long conversation. This was a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me that he actually got a lot of flack from people when he was first on, because I think it had to do with a combination of obviously the fact that he was just tearing a hole in the show for a week, and also the fact that it was kind of like the beginning of the season was his first game, and so a lot of new people were watching it and with the new episodes, and it completely blew things up. But without what Allison was saying, I think the perfect time to have been on Jeopardy is around, I guess, when Ken was on, right? Yeah. Right after they doubled it, took away the limit, and before Twitter and Facebook were at Ken Jennings, hey Ken, you suck. I think that was the mid 2000s were the perfect time to be on.
I think Ryan and I both got marriage proposals on Twitter, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, from my experience, and I think contestants used to receive marriage proposals via postal mail.
Wow. Passenger pigeon.
Yes.
I feel like it's almost cliche to say it, but my favorite contestant has always been Ken Jennings, and I think part of that's because he's originally from the area where I live, but I also just love his sense of humor.
Yeah.
I think he responds to everything with such poise and grace. I mean, I loved when he played the computer, Watson, and he lost, and on Final Jeopardy he wrote, "I, for one, welcome our new computer overlords."
Yeah, he's great. I read his book, Brainiac. On the way out to the taping, and follow him on Twitter and do the Slate quiz he does each week. And
yeah, it's great. I actually I read it before. Anytime I go on a show, I reread the book, and I got it signed by him a few months ago, and it's now like an air vacuum sealed vault, one of the prized possessions. But one of the things that you can tell is his wit, because that he's probably, in my opinion, he's the best person at those kind of figure it out clues, I call it, where like the example that everybody points to is the Roman numeral one, where he's just so quick. Roger, I'd say, has the widest base of knowledge, but Ken is just, his mind is like, it's working like 5 times as quick as anybody else on the show, and you can tell when he speaks. And I met and talked to him in person, and he's outrageously quick. Like you have to, like, it's almost like you have to double space your words just to give yourself time to respond. You see all 3 of them are great. Brad, Roger, and Ken, all 3 of them are great guys.
Brad Rutter is great too. Watched him. He did a Reddit AMA a couple months ago, and he's really witty.
Yeah, he's actually my dodgeball partner in the Trivia Championships of North America. We have this game. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Dodgeball, and it's Bob Harris, Jeopardy's Bob Harris, made the game, and it's basically just trivia and dodgeball at the same time, and it's done in 2s. It's a lot of fun, and me and Brad Rutter play. We lost this year, but again, he's another guy who's just so quick.
To add my own thoughts into this, I would probably have to say, again, Ken. I'm in the Ken camp in terms of favorite players. For those of you who know me, I guess watching or on the panel, probably not as much on the panel tonight, but and tuning in, knows my own history with the show. Or at least watching the show, and I would know that I would be remiss in saying it's anyone other than Ken. He would. I mean, you guys have all said it. He's very quick. He figures stuff out. He was on at the perfect time as well. Just after it, he was the one to kind of put Jeopardy back in the limelight, sort of say. I mean, I actually have 2 copies of Brainiac, one signed, one not. But yeah, I'll leave. For those of you who feel like doing some research into me a little later on, you'll find that I have some ties to Ken's run a little bit. That's all I need to say. Oh, Jeannie types #nerd alert.
Well,
Awesome. Thanks, Jeannie.
It's because Michael did it first with your J Archive shirt, so.
I did. I think you missed that earlier. We're all nerds.
Yeah, we're all nerds.
What do you expect from a panel on Jeopardy?
Yeah, I was about to say, am I in the right place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently, again, Tyler's typed out the fact that I keep losing my connection just gives credence to all the Twitter haters. He said blogging's not a real job. He can't even connect to the internet.
Right.
So,
What's your blog anyway? I think I found it once.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Oh, what's your blog? What's your blog URL?
I write for the Hollywood Gossip, which is as important as it sounds. It's all big about the Kardashians that you can handle.
So Hollywood Gossip, probably still better than TMZ, but
oh well, I don't know about that.
I've dealt with a TMZ reporter or two in my time, and it's I've had better dealings. Let's just say that much. I seem to recall a few years ago, Jeopardy threw some shade in T-Swizzle's direction, and apparently they wanted my hot take on it, and I think that's the lingo anyway. But
hot take would be the right one, yeah.
Yes.
That's not #nerd alert. That was awesome.
I guess I at this point I'm at the point of the show or the show where I ask, does any panelist have any other questions for any other panelists? I'm gonna go through check my email to see if we have any questions sitting in my email for the panel. But does any panelist have any questions for any of the other panelists?
Who are you betting on for TOC?
Oh boy.
Ooh,
Jeopardy,
boy.
Jeopardy Julia, yeah.
Yeah, I think people have actually underrated Julia a little bit from the discussion I've seen.
Same here.
She was. I'm remembering. She was at my tryout in Detroit last year. I didn't realize it because it took a year for me to get on, and then I read an interview with her, and she said she tried out in Detroit, and I thought, oh yeah, she was there, and yeah,
wow,
formidable,
that's cool.
fellow Illinoisan.
Okay, very nice. So we have a bunch of people for Julia. Hey, I mean, I'd be happy with Julie winning. She's been a panelist with us before. I'm also cheering for Ben a little bit too, but I mean, I would say all 15 contestants are in this upcoming tournament are excellent, and I could honestly see most. You know what? I could see any of the 15 winning. Even the college champion could surprise. So, of course, Jeannie was in the audience and knows what happened. So
yes.
she will keep her mouth shut.
Right.
And,
but I can say one thing. I get to see Mark Chappinga this week on Friday because I'm going to be in Wisconsin. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome. And I think will you be in Wisconsin when we tape our Tournament of Champions preview, Jeannie?
I will be back in Lincoln by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, as I just mentioned, our next hangout will be our Tournament of Champions preview that will be coming up next Monday at about 6 p.m. Eastern. And from that point, yes, Michael also suggested our I think the dream final would be Julia Collins versus Arthur Chu versus Ben Ingram. That would be, I think we'd all agree that that would be a great final if it were to happen, and that's what I'm hoping for anyway. Yes, so I think we're now at the 40-minute mark, so I think that's about time for us to say goodbye for another week. Once again, I'd like to thank all of our panelists. First off, thank you once again, Jeannie. Also, Tyler, the intermittent Tyler, but thanks for managing to keep it together for us. Also, Ryan, Michael, Matthew, Jenica, Brandon, and Allison. Once again, thank you all for taking part. Thank you for tuning in. I think, once again, to recap the big news, Ryan's quote-unquote rumor that they're going to be making a rules change regarding ties. They could banish them. I'm curious to see how that will play out over the next few weeks. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great night. See you next Monday when we do the Tournament of Champions preview.